Thank you, Kristen. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks. Yeah.
So we've been trying to do this for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And we finally made it come together. And I gotta give you props. I want to shout you out on this because you were thinking about bailing.
Yeah, I know.
but you didn't. And not only did you not, but you're like, no, I'm gonna make it work.
Yeah.
And I really respect that. So I really appreciate you doing that.
Well,
that
yeah.
cool.
Thanks for having me. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of podcasts, or even talk a lot about what I do. So it's nice to share and just open up the conversation.
Yeah, totally. And let's talk a little bit about what you do. So you are an actress. You are a hand model as well, and a model, which the hand model one, I kind of want to talk about that first.
Okay, cool.
Because how does anyone get into that specifically? Like, does somebody tell you that you have really nice hands? Like,
okay, so yeah, first I grew up in Northwest Indiana, so this type of industry and entertainment wasn't really available in Northwest Indiana. So when I moved here, growing up, throughout my childhood, a lot of people would tell me, oh, you should model, you should do pageants. And I was like a super shy kid. So that was just like terrifying.
Out of the question. Yeah.
Absolutely not. And then I moved here and I was like, wow, like there's an industry here. It's Chicago. Like it's a big city. So I started getting photos taken and getting a response right away when I would submit them to the agencies. So that was like, okay.
That's surprising, right?
Yeah, very surprising. And it was at the time when I was graduating college as well. And I was also submitting for like corporate positions in business and marketing. And it was crickets, like not hearing anything. So I that's kind of how I got into the whole modeling thing. And then hand modeling specifically, I submitted my comp cards to an agency and they like 6 months later finally called me in. And I went in and they're like, well, we don't really want you for print modeling, but what about hand modeling? I'm like, hand modeling? What do you mean?
Yeah, what does that entail?
I don't understand what you're saying. So they're like, okay, well, we're gonna take some photos of your hands while you're here, and then go get some professional photos done. I was like, okay. So I did, and I didn't know any photographers really, or even a hand photographer. But I did know someone that was a photographer for newborns. And I was like, well, that would work because they're used to like fine detail and things like that. So I did that, then submitted them to the agency. And within like a month, I got my first booking.
Wow. That's like a short time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, when they're doing like the auditions and everything, like you're plugging away for a long time before you get a single call back.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you say that form of encouragement ended up like allowing you to really continue, like, oh man, I got a chance here?
It did. So it was kind of on and off. Like I did get some jobs fairly quickly, but they were still like few and far between. But like the initial ones right away, that was really cool because it did keep me going. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, the money's good. All right, I could do this, and I have a flexible schedule, so why not? Yeah.
That's awesome. So the first couple gigs, although maybe it was few and far between, at least like you got encouragement relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So do you think that if the first like 6 months of your experience of trying to do that and you got nothing but no's, do you think you still would have stuck with it?
I think so, because that's just knowing the industry. That's just how it is. And I was very persistent and pursuant of it, and I wanted to do it. So I wasn't going to quit.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was very new, so I didn't have high expectations that like I'm going to be booking stuff right away. No, that wasn't it. I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to try things and figure it out. And as I was like going on more castings and like learning stuff, and I did go through a period then where I wasn't booking because I wanted to start booking from auditions, not just like directly booking, which is a different thing. I was like, I have to figure this out. I'm like, I'm super uncomfortable at these auditions. Like, how do I do this? So that's when I started taking improv classes and getting into acting to like better sharpen my comfortability with auditions.
There you go. Okay. So that was something I was going to ask you too, is like, well, what kind of experience did you have before you even started doing the auditions? Like how much experience did you have before you even attempted to book these things? And then how much did you learn from the process of actually doing the auditions?
I had zero experience. I learned everything through the process.
Wow.
So
that's risky.
Yeah. The auditions were my classroom, basically.
Wow.
because like I said, when I was a kid, like I did theater when I was a kid, and I was just like, this is terrifying. I don't ever want to do it again. So I had to force myself to be comfortable and like pursue acting.
Yeah.
Because it was like a huge fear of mine.
Well, acting is a vulnerability. Like you're literally putting out your raw emotions. Now you may be faking it for some scene, but it's coming from a real place.
It is.
And it's often encouraged to be pulled from a real place.
Right.
And so when you're putting yourself out there in that vulnerable way, especially to like bare your soul, so to speak, to do it and then potentially be like, no, you're not getting the job.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's pretty defeating.
Yeah.
Would you say that you found any strength in taking those chances or those risks?
Yeah, because in the beginning, I was really uncomfortable and I didn't like showing my emotions. I was very like, I don't know, not vulnerable with my emotions at all. And then as I started doing it, I started realizing like, yes, it's Kristen doing these roles or doing these auditions, but you're coming from a different place and portraying a character. So I was able to kind of separate the two. And now when I go for auditions, I'm like, okay, yes, let's do it. Like, I don't care. I'll do whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not so like self-conscious or shy anymore.
Because it's less attached to you personally.
Exactly.
And more attached to like the role that they're looking for.
Right.
So if you don't get a role, it's not that you sucked. It's that maybe you're just not the right person for what they were looking for. And it's a little bit easier to then deal with that emotionally. Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. And it's something that I've always wondered too, because like I like acting. I did improv at Second City. I did 2 acting classes at Second City as well. And I enjoyed it.
But I'm so fun.
But I don't want to go through auditions and do that. Like I would only want to act in things that like are my friends wrote something and I like what they wrote.
Yeah.
Or I wrote something and I want to star in it. Like that's where I'm more interested in the acting thing for me personally. But I really respect how people like go through and do the audition process because like when that's your thing, that is how you do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like for me, acting is a part of what I want to do, but it's not the main thing. So it's easy for me to be like, I don't need to do those things.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's like, no, acting is like something I'm really passionate about. I want to do it. Well, then you got to go to these auditions. You have to put yourself out there and you got to just take the shot. And you never know which one is going to be the gig that puts you on or even the gig that just ascends you to the next level in terms of booking.
Yeah.
Would you find that there are levels to it? And is there a point where it's like, okay, I hit this minimum level and I'm not going to dip below that again? Or is the industry kind of like finicky where it doesn't matter that you've done things?
I think it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No. I mean, you do get a reputation with your agencies, with the casting directors, and that's great. So it helps you to get called in the room more often. But just because you're called in the room more often doesn't necessarily mean you're going to book it. Or just because you booked some huge commercial or job prior, that doesn't mean that you're going to qualify for the next one. Because what I've learned is that like they can bring you in the room. However, the client ultimately usually is the one that's going to be the one saying yes or no to the final decision. Yeah. So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And that's kind of like the vibe that I get, but I don't know enough about it. So that's why I figured I'd ask you. But I always got the vibe that it's like, you know, yeah, you were hot 10 minutes ago, but, you know, it's 15 minutes now.
You're totally right. That's just how it is. And that's why a lot of actors and like models and stuff like that, they often invest in their own portfolio and like create their own work just to keep content coming and keep themselves active, whether they're booking with clients or not. It's just what you have to do.
It is what you have to do. And how much would you say has changed in like the last 10 years or so from the internet? Like how much has the landscape changed in terms of the type of gigs that are being offered, the type of content that's being made, which platforms they're put on?
I would say probably 80% of the jobs that I book, they're actually for internet, whether it's like for content for the client's website or their social media. And usually like the broadcast stuff for TV, those do come through and a lot of them are union. But it's majority web-based.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the landscape at this point is like, it's knowing that everybody's watching things on the internet. Most eyeballs are on the internet. They're not on cable TV anymore.
Right.
They're not on even regular, like the national news channels. So I guess what I wonder is like, how often do you get booked for like a YouTuber's gig? You know, like somebody who just needs an actress for a sketch or something. Like, does that happen, or is most of your stuff like companies and businesses that need?
It's more corporate, yeah. Because I do a lot of commercial work, so it's all like brands and stuff like that.
That's where the money's at.
It is.
I mean, honestly, like,
I'm not mad.
Yeah, it might be more fun to do like some YouTube sketches and whatever, but also like the working conditions could be worse.
Yeah.
You know? Because like there's also that level of like professionalism. So nowadays, the entry level point of where anybody can make anything, anybody with a phone can really make a piece of content. And if you have like a decent lighting kit or something like that. I mean, that's how I shoot this thing. I literally shoot this on phones, and I shoot it with
and it looks great.
Lights.
You never know,
right? You never know. And so that's where, with a certain level of professionalism, you won't feel the difference, even though the equipment might be different. But then you can get the opposite, where it's like, it's a YouTuber, they don't really know what they're doing, they didn't even go to school for video production, they somehow just caught a wave and got some success, and then maybe they're not the best working conditions, right? Like where the set kind of sucks. Or
well, I would say like in a situation like that, or even like student films or something, I would take those opportunities if it's an area of interest of mine that like I know I want to grow in, I want to improve in, then it's totally worth it. Yeah. And I've had some stuff where I've done student films, and this was years ago, but the production was great. Everything was really, really good. However, my performance was really terrible. So I was not able to use it for my reel.
Aww.
But again, it goes back to like challenging yourself and continuing to learn as you go through your career.
Yeah, stepping outside of your comfort zone. Like you said, like you know, you were very uncomfortable at the thought of even doing acting. So the fact that you pushed yourself through that, you learned something about yourself, and you learned kind of like, you learn where your limits are, and you learn where your limits aren't.
Yeah.
You know, so like somewhere where you thought was previously a limit, you're able to break through it and kind of hit a new paradigm.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of learning, it's one of those things too, where I work with my acting coach often, and like, I would say if you're an actor, having an acting coach is awesome because you get one-on-one attention, and the things that you're not sure about or insecure about, you're able to like fine tune those things and work through them much faster than in a broad classroom setting. So
it's so true. There's this book I quote all the time on this podcast. Some people are probably sick of it, but there's this book called Mastery, and it's written by Robert Greene, and it's all about the process of mastering a craft.
Wow.
And one of the essential steps in that is to find a mentor and to learn from them, and that you will always learn from a master much faster than you can learn on your own.
Yeah. And
you can do a lot on your own, and the internet's made it easier to get to a certain level, but you will plateau at a certain point where you really need somebody who just knows more than you and can give you a fresher perspective.
Yeah.
At what point were you able to get an acting coach, or did you just get one right away?
Well, no. I mean, I had the idea of like, wow, if I really want to do this, I probably need an acting coach. Just because you see that's what people have, right?
Totally.
But then it kind of happened organically. I met another actor on a set, and he introduced me to his acting coach. I don't know, I think through like a workshop or something, and helping with self-tape auditions, and that's kind of how it happened. It was really at the right time where it was like, okay, I was starting to get these roles for like TV and film, not just commercial stuff, and I really didn't know what to do with those roles or really how to develop myself, so it just happened through meeting someone, really.
Really? Yeah. So that's where there's a little bit of luck involved in the whole process. But really, when you're putting yourself out there, you know, you're making your own luck. Like, you're making it more likely for you to meet those people. So it's not like it's completely just like out of nowhere.
Right.
But it is kind of like sometimes it works out.
Yeah. Like, you're in the right place. You're around the people. We're all doing those same things. Yeah.
And I think that's a major key, and something that I always like to talk about on the podcast is like how important it is of like the circle of friends you keep around you.
Yeah.
How have you like tuned your radar for the people that you tend to surround yourself with? Especially in an industry like the entertainment industry, which can be kind of, you know, it's definitely known to be some snakes here and there. So like, how do you find the genuine people that are actually somebody you can grow with?
That's tough. I don't really have a proven method. Again, I've met certain people, and just our organic connection in the beginning has kind of kept us going through time, but I don't really have like a strategy. No, it's just like, if we vibe, cool. If we don't, like,
it's true.
Yeah.
And I think there are certain there are certain strategies you probably can employ in the sense of like certain things that you should notice that you should consider like a red flag.
Yeah.
But you're so right that it's just like a feeling.
Yeah.
Like, you can just kind of feel when somebody's being genuine with you, and you can feel when somebody's just like, oh, they just want something.
Yeah. And not all the people that I've met, I'm really, really good friends with, but like, you know, I think I have different compartments for the people that I have in my life. You know, it's like I have this group of people that I know and we're all about acting, or, you know, friends that are really into modeling or just other stuff too. So. Yeah.
And that's true. It's like not everybody needs to be your best friend. No one can even handle that anyway. Like we
don't have time for that.
I forgot the number, but there's a number of like the number of people that we can actually hold in our memory. I forgot. It's named after a guy because he's the one who came up with this concept, but it was like somebody's number, and it's like 100 something people, and like that's like the most that your brain can really like actually care about and think about.
Wow.
And so if that's the case, and you already know that a good portion of those people are like family,
right?
Then how many others do you have that you can really put that kind of effort towards?
Right.
And that doesn't mean that, you know, just because you have maybe more of an acquaintance level friendship with somebody that they're not important to you. It just means that like, hey, we just don't have that kind of relationship.
Right.
And it's usually a mutually understood thing of
yeah.
like, hey, I like you. If I saw you out in a place, I would say hi and I would hang out with you. But also, I'm probably not going to text you every day. Or, you know, I'm not going to hit you up every day. Because like, yeah, there's levels to things.
Yeah.
Do you find that the people that you're closest with, are they in the industry, or are they people that you just met outside of that?
A lot of the people that I'm closest with are my family, or also people that I kind of grew up with being younger. There's a few, like handful of people that I met through the industry that I've kept really good connection with. So like 5 or so.
Yeah. I'm a similar way. I definitely have some people where I have some friends from back home, and those are people that I've known since I was like really young. But then I also have some people that I've met just along this journey, like Joey, my roommate. I mean, he's somebody who I met really through Second City.
Oh, that's so cool.
And we ended up just vibing like immediately. It was just like one of those, like we just had like similar life philosophies. Yeah. I was like, oh, this guy's really cool. And so then now we've lived together for a while. And we make stuff together, like content wise. And so it's been a really fruitful friendship for us, both on just, we just enjoy each other's company and enjoy each other's energy, but also just we make similar stuff. Like he's into art and music. I've always loved music. So even though I'm not a musician myself, I'd love to be involved in making his videos. And like, so just like little things like that, where it's like, you could never plan that. Like it just
worked.
Yeah. And sometimes the universe will give you that because that's what you're ready for.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So what kind of things do you do, in regards to like your mental health and everything? Because like we were saying before about auditions, like they can kind of be heartbreaking sometimes.
My gosh, yeah.
Where you're constantly getting rejected. So what do you do to kind of keep like that positive attitude and to keep your mental health?
That's tough. Just in general, some practices that I have, I really like to do yoga. I really like to meditate. And then when it comes to mental health around like the audition process and the rejection and everything, it's tough to be positive. However, you just have to basically, well, a lot of people say that just let it go. Like you can't constantly like after the audition, like, oh, I hope I'm going to get this. I did so good. And oh man, this one sucked. It doesn't matter how you feel about it, because a lot of the times the way you feel, it doesn't matter. Like just because you feel, oh, I did good, that doesn't mean you're going to get the job.
Doesn't mean you get it. Yeah.
So you just have to know that it's a process, and don't beat yourself up about it. It's part of you being an actor. And the easier that you can be on yourself about the audition, whether you get it or not, like that doesn't mean that you're good or bad if you didn't get it, because like we talked about before, there's so many variables that go into making the final decision. Yeah. So just be easy. Don't stress about it. Just keep doing your thing because you have the passion and the love for it, not all about the metrics all the time.
Yeah, you got, and even lowering your expectations, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm not getting any of these, so I can do whatever.
Exactly.
And then when you go in like that, you're going to be more loose.
Yeah.
You're probably going to give a better performance. And even then, you still might not get it, but you know, it kind of gives you the best chance because you're going in calm.
And a lot of times they say that you really start booking when you don't care. You just walk in the room and, all right, I'm going to do this, that's it. And not being so stressed out and tense about it.
Please like me. Please like me. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do everything you say. Yes, go.
Yeah, that's a real thing too. And I feel like because in that industry you have to get people to like you.
Yeah.
So there is that game of like always putting on your best face.
Well, just being friendly and being likable. That like, just don't be a problem. Be nice and cordial with people, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean I think you should just have that life philosophy in general.
I know, right?
but yes, for sure in like the acting world. One thing that you said that like is a big thing that we talk about here on the podcast is meditation. So do you meditate right before your audition, or are you typically just rehearsing at that point? When do you typically incorporate your meditation?
Just in life in general, I like midday meditations. Like if I'm home or something, or like midday at lunch if I can. Like that's always really nice, just a refresher to keep me going through the day. I don't really do it in the morning because I'm kind of one of those people that just like to get up and go.
Yeah.
And then also at night, like just calm, quiet by myself.
Yeah, I like the midday because it's a momentum stopper.
Yeah.
So sometimes the momentum's not good momentum, so you need to stop it. And even if it's good momentum, sometimes it's good to stop it anyway. Yeah. Because it's like, hey, I shouldn't live my entire life on momentum all the time.
Yes, and that helps me kind of bring my energy back in and ground myself so I can properly like clear my mind to move throughout the day and just think about like where I'm at, what I'm supposed to be doing, and then have the energy to keep doing those things instead of like having my mind all over the place.
Totally. And like with your meditation, what kind of meditation is it? Like do you do like Vipassana, like mindfulness meditation, or visualization?
Well, I guess they call it like guided meditations. Sure. I really like those. They're
like 10% Happier.
I haven't tried that one.
You haven't?
No.
Oh, okay. Or like the Calm app. They all have like guided meditations.
Kind of like that, yeah. Like the soft music, then like someone's like walking you through different things. Yeah. I like those a lot.
So with the guided meditations, like at least with 10% Happier, which I've done because of work giving a free subscription for it.
Yeah, I downloaded it, but I never actually.
You never did it?
No.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I like it is because with 10% Happier, it's like they give you basically, it's like a toolkit.
Oh.
And so the toolkit is like each different type. There's compassion, there's focus, there's relationships.
That's cool.
And so basically it's giving you tools that you can use at any time that then when you're in a certain circumstance, you'll know, oh, that one type of meditation where we focus on these things, that might be good for me given my circumstances.
Oh.
And so the idea is that the more that you do of these guided ones, eventually you don't need to be guided. You know, the main thing is that it shows you a strategy and a tool for when your brain tends to go in this direction or in this circumstance or whatever's bothering you.
Yeah.
And I found that to be super helpful because it's like I'm learning a new strategy and it's also helping me kind of get in the zone. And then if I move forward and I have a situation that is very similar to what it prepared me for, then I'm more equipped to handle it. It's easier for me to bring myself back to center despite maybe being in a very upset mood or something or something that triggered me in some way.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, no, I think it's...
I'll have to try it.
Yeah, I think it's really a valuable thing and really just meditation in general. So the fact that you do it is already like... I'm sure you're way more zen than the average person, right?
Well,
just from doing that.
I try to be. Yeah, I try.
Well, we're human. That doesn't mean that we're like, emotionless.
Yeah,
but it's just more of like you're less likely to completely get caught up in the momentum of your emotions, and that doesn't mean that you're invulnerable to it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you're still a person. You're still gonna get mad and still feel it's fine.
I do. You're right.
Yeah. So that's cool. So I really like hearing about the process and like what you do in general, like preparing. So how do you prepare for a role that has like lines of dialogue that you actually have to memorize?
So there's a couple different things. Well, oh my gosh. I don't even know if I have my process down.
No, that's okay. And you don't have to, right? Like that's an ever changing thing too.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that I do. I like to break down the script first, meaning like before I even go into any sort of memorization, I'm like trying to understand just these couple pages of what am I doing?
What's happening?
What's the point, the setting, the relationship between the characters, my goal in the scene.
Yeah, the subtext, the beats.
Yeah. And the beats are really important.
The beat work is like,
oh my God.
that was one of the things that was stressed the most in my acting classes was how important beat work is.
Yeah.
And it really is all about the character's motivations.
Yeah.
It's all about like, yes, they're saying this, but what do they mean by it?
Yeah.
And if you understand that subtext, it allows you to deliver the line way more realistically.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's the process. Time wise, that takes however long. I don't really have like a gauge on that. And then once I kind of understand those things, I like to break it down based on like the beats or like the movement in the scene, and then just try memorizing there. And I like to memorize by moving. Yeah. They say that's the best way, like whether you have something in your hand, like the stress balls or whatever, you're walking or anything, it helps for memorization.
Do you also like act out the general movements you would do in the scene?
Yeah, like the physicality of it. Yeah, I like to do that because, I mean, you can memorize all day sitting right here, but then you're going to be up and presenting it. You got to
be able to feel it too.
It has to be in your body, right?
Yeah. And that's something that like in improv, they stress that when you're on there, where if you're imagining an object, you got to sell that you have the object.
Right.
And you can't forget the object either. You know, like
you just let it fall.
Yeah. Like, and that happens all the time in improv where like, you know, just beginning level improvisers, like they'll do like a fake gun or whatever, and then they forget that it's in their hand and they've already like abandoned it. And you're like, dude, what did you do with the gun?
Where'd it go?
Yeah. And the audience, like, although they know it's all made up, like they have their belief
memory,
suspense.
Yeah.
So like they know that they're like, hey, you had a gun. I don't know what you did with it, but you didn't resolve that. So it'll be
confusing into like, oh wait, they had a gun, but now how did they just magically have this other thing?
Yeah, exactly. How they get the spoon in their hand or whatever. Yeah. And I think that's an important part of scene work too, is like when you're doing a scene that you have to be real. Like the standing and talking scenes they're played out. Yeah. Like they're not interesting. No. And I read this screenwriting book. It was by a UCLA screenwriting professor. I'm blanking on his name right now. I never remember these things.
It's okay.
But he talked all about the theme of integration. And the idea of integration is that the entire thing should be furthering the story. So the scene that they're in, the characters you have interacting, the dialogue that they're talking about, all of that needs to be integrated into the story. So if you need a scene between two characters talking, you need to put them in a location that makes sense for both of those characters and the context of what they're talking about. Right. Because if you just put them in a coffee shop or in a car, like, they're boring. Yeah. It's just a boring scene. Yeah. And so then to incorporate that into like a physicality or a certain response, or you know, especially when you're thinking about the subtext between the characters of like, well, what are they trying to convey? And I think that's something that like Game of Thrones, which I got to talk about because it's relevant right now. Yeah. But Game of Thrones, I think, does really well. Where like they do tend to, except maybe this latest season is, you know, they only have 7 episodes or whatever. Yeah. But in general, they were always good about putting people in specific scenes together and in circumstances that kind of further that scene to be even more dramatic. Yeah.
Well, I have to admit, I don't watch Game of Thrones.
No.
So, yeah, I got to get on that.
Yeah, you do. Well, I mean, at least now you'll be able to binge the whole thing.
I know. Yeah. I just Netflix it all day.
And I'm sure things have probably been accidentally spoiled to you just over the course of time.
Not really.
Not like really?
People talk about their excitement in watching it, but
the facts.
I haven't had anyone go into detail yet.
Yeah, so you don't really know.
No, they're just like, oh, it's so good, I have to watch it tonight. You didn't see that? I'm like, no, I didn't.
You're like, no, I don't watch it. Yeah, see, Joey was the same way, where he didn't watch it, and he just got like, he said that he got I guess like tired of it because of a girl he was dating that was really into it, and then they broke up, and then he's like, oh, well, I don't want to think about Game of Thrones.
Association.
Yeah. But then he recently got back into it after, because he only watched like 1 episode. Yeah. And he got back into it, and now he's on season 6, episode 1.
Well, that's pretty good.
So he's almost catching up. I think he'll catch up before the end of the season. Yeah. Yeah. But it has gotten good. I'm not going to talk about it or spoil it.
That's okay.
But it is a show that I enjoy a lot, and that I've drawn a lot of inspiration from in terms of the world building and everything.
That's cool.
Yeah, George R.R. Martin, although he can't seem to finish his books, he at least like has done a great job with the character building in the world. Like you really feel like that world exists.
Wow. Okay, I'll have to put it on my watch list.
You should.
For sure.
You should. You have to be patient with it though. Like you got to give it a few episodes, because there's a lot of setups in the beginning, but they pay off. Sometimes they pay off seasons later.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
But that's what happens when you have a story that's actually planned from beginning to end. Like, do you ever see Breaking Bad?
Yes.
Yeah. See, Breaking Bad was a show that had a plan.
Right.
And they executed the plan. And that's the reason why it ended so well. Mm-hmm. That was like one of the endings where I felt like, you know what? I was satisfied.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that was a good ending to that show.
Right.
And like, how often do you get the end of a show where it actually feels satisfying?
Yeah. Like, you don't feel like you're just hanging there like, wait, that's
why is this show still going?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, how is this on this season? Like, Walking Dead is a prime example for me, where like I loved that show to a point, and then there got to a point where I was like, all right, what are you guys doing?
You're just done.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing? You're just like wasting narrative time.
Yeah,
the development doesn't make sense. Why'd you kill that character? They didn't even get their payoff. You know, like yeah, and yeah, but that's what happens when you don't really like have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Right.
I just prefer those stories. I'm biased to that, but I prefer those kind of stories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every scene, it has a beginning, middle, and end. No matter if there's words or not words, there's always that storyline.
Yeah, and you have to follow it.
Yeah.
What kind of storylines are you drawn to, like, in terms of the kind of gigs that you would want to do?
That I would want to do, or that like I get sent out on?
You could do both. So the ones you get sent out on, and then follow that up with ones that you like really would like to do.
Okay, so let's talk about the commercial world, because that's kind of where I primarily started and work a lot in. I get booked a lot for the young mom role, and I've been getting booked for the young mom role since I was like 20 years old.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And you know, fun fact, like last year or something, I did some campaign for Sarah Lee, and I had a son that was 16 years old. Yeah, when I got on set, they're like, can you like do something to make her look a little bit older, like some makeup, some hair or something? They did, and like it worked.
It worked. You looked older. You're like, okay, well,
it really worked.
I guess I have a 16-year-old son now.
Yeah, that was really cool, because usually I get like, you know, oldest like 5 to 7, or like even younger, like little kids.
And I could buy that.
Yeah. It works. But that was interesting. So the young mom role I get a lot. And for TV and film, it's kind of all over the place. I don't think I've really had my mark yet of Kristen's really good at booking these type of roles. So I get kind of sent out on everything right now.
Sure.
But the Chicago shows are a lot of like the Chicago PD, Chicago Med, all that stuff. Chicago Fire. Yeah. So it's a lot of professional roles. Nurse, lawyer, doctor. I haven't really gotten doctor, or like assistant, those type of things.
Have you booked any of those shows?
No, I haven't yet. So I'm still...
You're still trying.
I'm still trying. Yeah.
I know a bunch of people who have been extras on those.
Yeah, I'm not like a huge fan of the extra world.
No, because then it makes it so you can't be a character later.
Yeah, so like if you book one of the Chicago shows, on one of them, you can't book again for, I guess, like 3 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know
There's some time limit. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense, though.
Yeah.
They don't want the same people just walking in the background all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, so... we'll see what happens there, but
okay. So then, what are the roles that you would like most want?
So
like you could even say like type genre.
I love rom-coms.
Of course,
I would totally be on a rom-com all day. For a specific character type, I don't really have one. I just like a lot of the times like the lightheartedness of that type of genre. It's fun, relatable to me, lighthearted.
Would you want to be the lead or like one of the secondary characters?
Starting out, definitely secondary. Like I don't like to kind of like jump the gun on things. I like to take it a very gradual approach, just like I did when I first got into modeling. It was like I started kind of small and then like gradually built myself up for the bigger stuff. So secondary is great, because I kind of want to go like there's a level to it, like you know, co-star, guest star, and then lead. So I'd like to book a couple of the co-stars, guest stars, and then book a lead role, and then go into that.
And then you feel like, all right, I feel good enough to carry the scene,
because I'm like really comfortable in the commercial environment. But TV film, it's a different environment, so I want to get acclimated to the environment first before I'm just like supposed to know what to do. You know what I mean?
Know your enemy.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, no, it's true. You kind of want to know what you're stepping into.
Exactly.
You definitely don't want to like jump in a really vulnerable position in a huge I guess like
platform
and expectations, and then you're like, oh, but I actually don't even know what I'm doing on top of that. Whereas as a secondary character, like you could not know what you're doing and still get away with it. Yeah. Because you're not necessarily the focal point of any of the scenes.
And like the co-stars and guest stars a lot of the time are, like you said, moving the story along. So it's just you're there for a split second and you say your thing and then you go. Yeah. So it's a good entry point for me.
Yeah, it's a good entry point. It's a good way to like that scene, even though it's a secondary character, could be a really important scene for the main character. Exactly. And so if you're the one leaving the lasting words of impact on that character, like you're somebody that people can then remember. Right. And then when you reference that in your reel, you can be like, hey, look at what I did here. Although I wasn't the main part of this scene, tell me I didn't do my job here. Right. You know, I did the part that I was supposed to do. Because not everybody's supposed to be in the spotlight in every scene. No. Yeah. I think it's important for people to learn when to play the background character, you know?
Yeah, and I learned that over time because I didn't understand the breakdown of the character roles at first, like with the co-stars and guest stars. And when I really understood what my character's position was, I totally approached the scene differently. Yeah. And it was just much more relaxed, like not a lot of stress, because you're just, at the end of the day, like your character's just doing the job, really, you know?
It's true. Especially because a lot of those characters, you know, they're meant to just be regular people. Yeah. A secondary character and a guest star. Yeah. So it is somebody where you kind of have to be relatable and you almost have to blend in with the background while also standing out when you need to stand out.
Yeah, yeah. Because, like, if you're doing a nurse or something on, like, for example, Chicago Med, that you, as the character, you do that every single day. Like, what you're seeing on the table or whatever
is normal
to you. So it's just routine. And that's how you got to think about it sometimes.
It's true. So how do you get yourself in the head of a character? You know, like when you get a role and you're like, all right, this is their job, this is their age, this is the circumstances. How do you put yourself in that frame of mind? And are you like a method actor, or you know, some people they like really get into the role?
It's a lot of like visualization for me and imagination. And I pull from in my mind you know, experiences that I've had or shows that I've seen about these roles and what I currently know about that. And then also I like to understand the show and watch it and see how the tone of the show is, to know how my performance should kind of go. Sure. And for a lot of like TV and film, I do like to work with my acting coach because she's the one that helps pull my emotions out and pull the realness from my own place, but then also from where the character is going to come from as well.
Totally. So she helps kind of mold how you think about framing it.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, because for one of my challenges has been the emotional piece to it. Because I do a lot of commercial work, and that's just like very fun, happy, like
smiling.
Yeah, that's me all day. You know, when it gets to the more of the dramatic pieces, that is a challenge that takes me a little bit more time and a little bit more effort to get there.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, you can't jump into a sad scene anyway. No. You know, you have to warm yourself up to that. And usually they won't shoot a scene like that as the first scene of the day either, necessarily.
I don't think it matters.
I think it does a little.
Really?
Bit. Yeah, I think if you shot the most dramatic scene first, then how are you supposed to do all the rest of them? You know? But at the same time, if you shoot at the end of the day, you might be too tired to really give the performance you need.
Yeah, but I don't know if they care that much. I think it all goes back down to like set, location, like
there are other variables that maybe end up being more important. But if the director has the freedom to do that, I'm sure they would plan their day to not have this dramatic shot be the first thing you do.
I would hope.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
I would think so. I don't know. I mean, at least that's how I would do it. Yeah. I would just certainly wouldn't throw them to the wolves first and then be like, hey, we're going to do some lighthearted shit later. Like
under a tight budget, though, you never know what you do.
It's true. It's true. Because like that's the thing about film is it's so cooperative. So you got camera people, you got grips, you got the audio people, you have the actors, you have like the food. Right? You got to have food on set because otherwise if people are hungry, they're not going to be happy. And if you're working for extended hours, you need to have your breaks and everything.
Well, and the food is like catered usually because there's not a lot of time for everyone to go get something and then come back. It's just not possible.
It needs to just be there so that it's convenient. So everyone can just stop, take a second, eat. We know where they're all at. And then we can bring them on. Yeah. So what's been the most interesting and you don't have to name names or anything, but what is the most interesting set experience you've had? And that could be interesting in a bad way. And then also, what was like the, I guess, most boring type set circumstance that you'd find yourself in?
Well, I'm going to go with the one that's just top of mind, which is my all-time favorite booking that I've ever done. It was a print shoot. It was for Mercedes, and I got booked directly, so I just had to send in digis, which are just photos of myself and like a little video or something.
Sure.
And it was in South Haven, Michigan, in like a rental beach house on the lake. And it was just such a beautiful little like town there. And the house was gorgeous. It was like one of those dream bookings because I was like shooting on the beach, and then we were outside, and it was awesome altogether. It was like very chill, relaxed, like no stress at all. And it was just awesome. I don't know.
Yep. And it's probably good money too.
Oh yeah, it was really good money.
Yeah, because like
with residuals and all.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where like getting a corporate gig, that's where it pays.
Yeah.
You know, that's where like the corporate gigs are, I don't want to even say evil because they're not evil, but a necessary part of the process, right? Where, you know, there are people who they get into acting and like they're really all about the artistic part of acting, and they really want to work on films that are like Oscar winning, whatever, and that's fine and that's good. You should want that, and I appreciate people who have the artistic, but also like you gotta make money.
Yeah,
so you
I
know you should book the corporate gigs. It's okay.
Yeah.
Doing a commercial is not the end of the world.
And like the corporate stuff it's so much like more lighthearted and fun, and just like sometimes it's silly or whatever, you know. And it's fun. I like it.
And not to mention like the people on set too. So the people, you know, the ones who booked it, like in terms of directors and the camera people, like they're happy too, because you know that they're getting paid enough to do that.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like when you're making films, if you're not getting paid by some big, you know, budget type company, like the budget is going to be constrained. The hours might be constrained. You might not have enough people to do everything. You might have a couple of people doing a few different roles, you know, and that's indie filmmaking.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's everything's tight, everything's stressed out because there's just not enough budget for the crew or whatever, and it's overall not a pleasant experience sometimes.
Yeah, and I would think that would be the case with most like starving filmmakers, you know, where it's not their fault. They just they only have so many constraints that they can work with. They only have so many bodies that they can get on set, and so it's naturally going to be a little bit more high pressure because basically they can't waste time not getting the right shot. Right.
And a lot of times when you're starting out like that, that's the fun part in working with friends and people that you know. Like if you've made, you know, other friend actors or people in production, and you come together as a group project, it's a fun like passion thing to do.
Yes.
And then as you keep going, it's like, all right, well, now we have some budget. Let's make some bigger stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you can get more ambitious and you can kind of grow with it. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think, like you said, with secondary roles and everything, like starting small.
Yeah.
There's
no wrong in that.
There's nothing wrong in that. And not to mention, like the people who tend to do the slow burn are the ones who kind of maybe have a slow start too.
Yeah.
You know, the people who get that quick, that like flash in the pan, but then they're done. You know, you blow up too fast, and then you didn't build up the skills to deal with the inevitable extra things that come out with that.
Sustain yourself. Yeah, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about this subject where, you know, you finally get credits on your resume, and you have a reel and all of this, and you think, oh, I made it. And so the person that was talking was like, yeah, I got these credits, and like it was sustaining me for a little bit, so I stopped creating my own content. And he's like, what I didn't realize is that after, like, you know, those jobs ran out, it's like, just because I have them on my reel, it doesn't mean anything. Like it doesn't automatically credit you to book the next job.
It doesn't.
You're still at the same playing field of, you have to go to the same audition, you have to do all the stuff the same as you once did when you first started. And I had that experience as well, like, you know, going from booking like crazy to it getting slow. It's like, that's just the nature of the business. So
and there's like probably periods in the year too, especially with weather, like on when things get more booked versus other times.
Summer's like usually really busy here. However, in the years that I've been doing this, I have still yet to be able to tell what time of year is commonly busy for me. It just
it seems
it
to
rotates
vary
all the time. So I don't know.
Yeah, it also depends on the kind of gigs that you're trying to go for,
Yeah.
and it depends on when the company decides that they want a commercial.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily weather specific.
No.
but that is interesting.
I mean, if they want outdoor stuff in Chicago,
Then it's got to be summer.
Yeah.
because the winter's brutal. Yeah, you're not filming in -40.
no. But I mean, TV and film will.
Yeah, they kind of have to.
They have to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's their schedule. It's just part of it, unfortunately. So you said that you made your own content, and you said that you also kind of ran into the same thing of stop making it. So tell me a little bit about some of the content that you have made that like you specifically made, and then some things that you learned from doing that.
So that would be creating my portfolio for like the modeling side of things. That's kind of how I got like my foot in the door, and I think really started booking as well, because I was constantly putting out photos, constantly getting in the studio, and it was really because I needed to learn. I felt like I was old already, just starting, in my younger 20s, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I wasn't booking all of the time. But I'm like, well, if I need this to be worth it, then I need to know what I'm doing. So when I get in front of a camera for an audition or a job, I have something to bring to the table.
Yeah, then you step up.
Yeah. So I created, like, I don't know, I worked with Adrian Orozco a lot. He's a headshot photographer in Chicago. And I mean, every single month we were doing photos all the time.
Yeah.
And I was just constantly updating my agents with new photos and everything. And one thing I can say is that, like, the more you can communicate with your agent and show them what you're doing and just be responsive to them, the more likely they're going to remember you when auditions come in.
Yeah.
And send you out on them. So that's one tip, I guess.
Yeah, that's a real game. The game of, like, making sure the agent's actually trying to book you, because they have a bunch of other people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're not their number one.
You're maybe one of like 100 that look exactly like you. I don't know.
Yeah. Which, man, nothing to make you feel unoriginal like that. But
No.
But so then with like booking those photo shoots, is it just because you had a rapport with that photographer, or like how do you get into that kind of circumstance where you can have somebody who wants to go do photo shoots?
That was we just had a personal relationship, and then as friends, as fellow coworkers, we decided, like, hey, like, he wants to book other people for headshots as well. Like, why don't I work with you, and we do these headshot sessions, and I'll also get photos out of it at the end of the day. So we kind of created like a little partnership.
Yeah, and that's smart, and that's something that I stress, like, with my friends all the time, is that it's so important to work with people with their skills and give them a chance to use them. Yeah. Because a lot of, like, my friends in the creative world, like, they couldn't just do things just by themselves. No one can. No. I can't do things. I do this podcast mostly by myself, but still I can't do it without guests or without Joey coming in and helping me with the camera. Yeah. So I think it's so important when everybody's kind of like, no one's making money, right? If no one's making money, no one's like doing it, then we all benefit if we just do a project together that we can all put our names on, and we use that as like a template to say, hey, look at what we're capable of making.
And that's the thing. It's like trying to like get yourself out there in any industry, especially a creative industry. It's like, it's all about collaboration, bartering, like you said, skill set sharing, all of that stuff. And at the end of the day, you're coming together as a greater purpose. We all want to make money. We all want to book with clients, and let's put stuff out there so we have the opportunity to actually make money and book.
Yeah, it's so true, because if you make some things together and you're making it for the fun of doing it, and you're learning stuff about yourself, learning stuff about the process, you're developing your skills, like, there's no downside to that. No. If you enjoy doing the thing, and even though nobody is necessarily getting paid in the first, like, the beginning part of that journey, like, there will be a point where you will, and you won't even be worried about it. Right. Because at that point, you'll be enjoying the process so much. You'll be enjoying just making the stuff that it'll just make sense that, of course, it'll make you money on top of it.
Right. Yeah. Like they say, like, do what you love and the money will come. It's so true.
It's so
like,
true.
I didn't go into any of this because I was like, oh, I want to be rich. Yeah. No, I was just like, this is genuinely something that I'm passionate about and I'm willing to put my time towards, even though it's not making me money right away. But I love doing it.
Yeah. And how did you find that? Like, how did you find out that that was something that you loved doing? What were your first inclinations that like, oh, I think I might like this acting and modeling stuff?
Well, I think it goes back to like, I'm driven by challenges a lot and personal challenges and breaking through my own barriers. And as I saw that there was an opportunity for me to grow and for me to really develop myself in a way that I was really uncomfortable, especially in front of a camera and especially with dialogue, things like that, it really kept me going. And then the fact knowing that there is an industry behind this passion that I have, so it kind of just naturally fell into its own route the more I invested into it.
Yeah, and that's always how it is that, you know, you start out with something like, you know, this feels right. I don't know what it is. It feels right. And then as it goes on, the road becomes clear. Yeah. And that's something that I learned from watching a video where Jason Silva, who I've also quoted a bunch of times on the podcast, he used to be the host of Brain Games on National Geographic, and he had a show on like Current TV or something. But he does these things called Shots of Awe on YouTube. Oh. And they're these 2-minute like inspirational things where he literally freestyles it, you know, kind of like a freestyle rapper, but with like philosophy and ideas and like.
That's so cool.
He's very poetic with his language. He's bilingual. He's Venezuelan, I think. I don't know. I think he was born maybe in America, but I don't know. But he's definitely like his dad's like still lives in Venezuela. Yeah. And he has this concept of like, don't have a map, have a compass. Because if you have a compass, you know you're going in the right direction. Yeah. But the map is rigid. The map is like, I need to go from this street to this street.
A to B.
Which is not necessarily how our lives go.
No.
And so if you have a compass, you know you're generally going north or you're generally going east or whatever. But you're willing to take whatever path gets you there.
That's true. And like you see the bigger vision at the end of the day. But you don't necessarily know the exact route.
Yeah, and you don't need to. You don't need to know when you're gonna make a right and a left, and like that's not important. It's like one of those like in the moment you will know what the right decision is, and even if it's the quote unquote wrong decision, it wasn't because you needed to make that decision to then get to the right.
A learning experience or something.
Yeah. And if you take that approach, if you take that mentality, then there's no way that you're not gonna come away from it stronger, wiser, and smarter, and so then moving forward, everything you're doing, you're getting better and better at making those decisions. You're making a more and more direct route, and even on your detours, those detours end up being really fruitful endeavors for you. Yeah, it's all because of the attitude and the perspective that you take when you're doing it.
Well, and the perseverance. Like even if it was a detour that temporarily took you off your path of getting there, it's like, well, you know that you won't do that next time, and then it'll also test your I guess, strength in moving forward and continuing that journey, even though you might have to kind of backpedal to get back on that path too.
Totally. And sometimes we have to take a couple steps back to see where we need to make another step forward. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so key, and it's something that I try when I pick guests to come on. I look for things like that where I'm like, what are you doing that maybe the average person is not doing, and what can we learn from that? Yeah. And I think you do a lot of those things too, where just how you approach it and how you've done it. I mean, you went in with literally no experience and you just were like, I guess I'm just going to start doing auditions. Yeah. I guess I'm just going to start modeling. And you figured it out. Yeah. And I think that's amazing to me. So, because most people, when they get into it, like you at least have some acting experience. And like, other than you said a little bit in high school, was it? Or is it middle school?
Middle school.
Well,
middle school, and then I did do some in college, but
not really. Like that wasn't like the main focal point.
No, it wasn't, because I didn't really like it. Like it was. Yeah. I wasn't ready to jump through my own personal barriers to invest like I have been recently.
Yeah, and part of your journey, and you know, when you zoom out, you can get the perspective to have that. Part of your journey was to figure out those personal barriers first before you could really do that. And even though, you know, part of it was assisted with you doing these things, you did it at your own pace. Oh, yeah. And that is the key, is like everybody wants to rush to be famous. Everybody wants to rush to be successful. Everybody wants it to just be now. Right. And in a world where it's instant gratification, we have phones that allow us to get our answers to any question we have within seconds. Like, it's understandable that we are getting programmed that way.
Yeah, I know.
But we have to break that.
Yeah, it's more and more difficult to continue long term. with things. And when they're not working, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just going to do this.
Okay, I'll just quit.
Yeah.
Pivot. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I've even had those thoughts myself. I was like, man, like, it's just not what I want it to be right now. But like, you don't give up.
No.
You got to keep going, and you have to adjust your life and still have a good life, make it livable and everything while you're continuing your passion and your journey. And you'll see the fruits of it, you know, as you go and in the end as well.
It's so true. It's so true. That's like such a good place to end on. I don't want to spoil it. But Kristen, thank you so much for coming on. How can people like find you, follow you?
I use Instagram a lot. My handle, I guess, is Nunez Kristen, Nunez Kristen, and my website is kristennunez.com. Message me, DM me, whatever. Ask me questions.
Yeah, totally. And I'll put all the links in the description and everything.
Okay.
But thanks again for coming on. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And see you guys later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.